Watch out for double taps. I know people out there like to get the most out of a piece of content by sending that piece of content again. Maybe do that later. If you send an email and exclude everyone who opened, you are sending to people who don't open emails. The engagement on that message is going to be so low. And what you're telling Gmail is, we send messages that people don't engage with. You're better off, as far as deliverability is concerned, you're better off giving it a new subject line and maybe changing the headline and sending it again, rather than pulling out actual engaged people and sending it to only unengaged people. Don't send emails to only unengaged people. That's just the worst thing you can do for your IP.
Content from real people equals instant credibility for your brand. Consumers today crave real connections with real people, and they're guarded about who they'll trust. Highly polished, branded content simply doesn't cut it anymore. Let MiniSocial build a network of powerful micro-influencers around your brand who all know and love your products. They'll create something compelling that resonates with their audience and deliver it directly to you for use across all your marketing channels. Yeah, that includes ads. Meet millennials and Gen Zers where they're already hanging out, in the feeds of their favorite influencers, and get started with MiniSocial. It's all killer, no filler. I'm Eric, and I'm here with Jogo. A couple weeks ago, we talked a little bit about a little alarming development that Jogo uncovered, which was he realized that clicks were not quite as reliable in some cases on some campaigns as others. And today, I think we're going to continue that discussion. What's the state with bot clicks going on emails these days, Jogo?
The big thing I wanted to come here and talk about was Klaviyo has released a bot click exclusion. So, and most of our clients come to us using Klaviyo. So the first thing here is just FYI, that bot click exclusion is in. We've been using it. It works well for includes. I wouldn't use it for excludes. Maybe I'll explain why in a second when we talk about it more in depth. But that's one thing, is it's there. Also, though, I think we should just have a discussion about what I think are just landmines. We'll use the analogy of landmines, and then what you do if you realize that you had a landmine.
You got to disarm landmines before you step on them. So that's what we'll do here.
Yeah, exactly. So I was just saying how to use this bot click. That's the first thing. Something to understand. They've launched bot click, and what it means is, it's just like with opens, how Klaviyo has the Apple Privacy Open that allows you to remove questionable opens. They might be real, they might be fake, we don't know. The bot click will remove questionable clicks. But something to keep in mind is I don't know how much data there is there, probably a few weeks of data or something, right? So all of your engaged segments are still full of people who Klaviyo says has clicked, they have not clicked, and using the bot click does not remove them from the segments. It's going to take time for that to clear through, right? So keep that in mind. And because of that, do not use it for exclusions, because if you're excluding bot click for any reason, it's not excluding all the good clicks. Although I don't know really why anybody would do click exclusions, but just by the way, use it for inclusions. And it's fine to just go in there to all your segments and just turn it on. Now, our segments that we use, though, we take into account mailability, which requires interacting with the email address, and engagement, which requires any kind of activity. So we will consider, for instance, a checkout started or kind of a first active engaged. So if you turn bot click on and really crunch all your click engagement, and you're really just measuring clicks for engagement, you're going to just kill your engaged segment. So the more kinds of, bottom line, the more kinds of things you measure for engagement, the less of an effect it's going to be if you go in and just turn this on. So that's that. Now let's talk about landmines. So that's done. So I'll just say that some weeks I do an audit a day. So I'm just inside of a phenomenal number of Klaviyo accounts. And when we first came on and started talking about this, I heard from a bunch of people we worked with before, and we also just some fresh audits. People started going, oh yeah, hey, suddenly my open rates just started dropping, right? We don't know why. So I definitely struck a chord out there. let me explain what I think, what a landmine is, right? We might have touched on this last time. Gmail does not provide spam complaint data to providers. It's only available in Gmail Postmaster tools. You can install Postmaster tools. It's just a thing you got to do. But even then, it's the data's not in Klaviyo. It's going to be this massive, super manual solution. You're going to be unsure about the results anyway. But just to give an example here, let's say your Klaviyo says your spam complaint rate's 0.03%. If Gmail is 75% of your emails sent, most people Gmail's like 2/3 or whatever of their emails sent. That 0.03, it's really 0.1, right? Because Gmail's not reporting on that. So bottom line, if you're seeing if your spam complaint rate's anything like 0.1 in Klaviyo, it's probably 0.3, and you're at Gmail's their own self-stated limit. And even 0.1, I think they're not happy.
Hence the landmine. This makes sense because it's under the surface. This is something that you'd be walking across something all day. You don't know that you're actually you're this close to triggering a limb rending
That's
landmine
exactly
experience.
Right. And who would have a landmine? So then, where are they placed, right? Who would have a bunch of Gmail spam complaints and wouldn't really be aware, or it never would have mattered or bubbled to the surface? I mean, in a really simple way of looking at it is if you think about a catalog to frequency ratio. If you have a really small catalog and a high message frequency, you're probably going to get more spam complaints because they've already seen your messages, unless you've got really, really good high quality content and you're adding a lot of value. If you've got a large catalog and you're always launching new things and talking about new products and there's lots of new things to see, you can send a lot of messages and probably not have that landmine. So does that make sense? And so that's one. And the other is industry. If you're in like a hyper competitive industry with lots of other brands that are basically competing for the exact same customer with similar offers, it's going to be more common for someone to show up and just, I want my 10%, want my thing. They give it a try, and they go and try something else. That's life. If you're in that kind of industry, that's life. So if that's the case, you have to be careful about frequency, right? And really be careful. I've got I've got a checklist here that we can go through. All right. Yeah. So sorry to wrap that up. That's right. That's who would have a landmine. You've got a really tough industry, or you've got a really weird or off catalog size to frequency ratio. And this is a small, it's not like it's affecting a ton of people, but if it's affecting you, it's huge. Right? Some people are fine. And this is the other weird thing about it. Some people are just, I've got a client that sends a campaign a day and they're fine. It's really, and so I also wonder, and we're just learning by doing, but I wonder if there's still kind of things that are churning through on the Gmail side. Right?
Mm-hmm. Always changing.
Yeah.
This reminds me of the old adage that a healthy person can have any number of wishes, but a sick person only has one wish.
Has one wish, yes. You're right.
So if we apply this to your email list, if your email list is dead, you only have one wish.
Yeah, totally. Let me talk through some things that, if you just suddenly have noticed, hey, and this often shows up in the open rate. Like, why are my open rates just drifting down, right? Every week I'm in a new Klaviyo account doing an audit from someone who's just seeing this happen on their open rates, right? So what are things you can do? Well, we might have said this long ago when when we got together, we were just doing the really high level stuff. If you want to build an audience, you got to add value and respect people's time. And so Gmail wants you to build an audience. So they absolutely are interested in you adding value, which is an email that drives engagement, and respecting people's time, which is sending the right number of messages so that you don't get negative engagements like unsubscribes and spam complaints. So first of all, add value on your messages and respect people's time. Just as always as a North Star. But beyond that, go into your segments and make sure you have removed people who have marked spam ever. Just go in there and do that right in the segment. Go in there and remove anyone who's bounced ever. Listen, that actually, like some people bounce and it's not the end, like they'll everything will clean up. It's just some indigestion on the ISP side. But if you're in the middle of, an inboxing problem, you want to like basically shoot now and ask questions later. So just go in there, remove everyone who's bounced ever. You can go back and be a little more thoughtful about it later. Obviously, be careful about messaging people who haven't subscribed. Of course, everybody, message people who have subscribed. But there's all kinds of others. There's stuff like implied consent, situations where you can email people who haven't subscribed, and it's totally legal. But be careful about that. Maybe it's time to go into your segments and just forget about that stuff for now, and just make sure that every single person has a subscribe. If your subscribe is in another system like Attentive or something like that, that subscribe isn't in Klaviyo, and that's a whole different can of worms. If you're in that kind of environment, we're here to help. Obviously, like we discussed, go turn that bot click thing on. Make sure your bot click is on and your Apple privacy and you're pulling out Apple privacy opens as well. So when you consider someone engaged, they've actually engaged. It was a real open. It was a real click. This is interesting. You and I haven't discussed this one yet, or with the audience here, but you can go into a segment and say, whatever your segment is, and you can say, has subscribed in the last 60 days, or clicked once ever, bot click equals false, or active on site once ever, or checkout started once ever. And those are pretty heavy duty things, right? If for someone to click or be active on site or start at checkout, that's a crazy show of intent. So what you can do is just you give someone 60 days, and if they haven't shown that crazy intent in 60 days, it's get filtered out. You can go remove that later on, after you've kind of gotten out of the doghouse. It's just like an easy way to really make sure that you've got engaged people in your list. So if you've got, we've talked about the monolithic segment before. If you got, say, 120 day, let's say you got 180. Okay, clone it and change it to 120, and clone it again, change it to 90, clone it again, change it to 60. So you got 180, 120, 90, 60. And send all four of those at the same time.
And you're deduping so that it's only those segments, right? It's you're not.
Someone can exist in more than one. So they're not mutually exclusive. By the way, we do a life cycle where every single address is in a mutually exclusive, fully exhaustive life cycle. So they're only in one place, so you know exactly who you're sending to. Most people do not do that. It's a huge hassle, by the way, on my like always going in and making sure the segmentation is set up right in the clients. But it has this great benefit where you know exactly who you're sending to. In this case, you're not going to do that. You're just going to take the 180 if you've got a 180, clone it, make it 120, clone it 90, clone it 60, and send to all four at the same time. And then you can compare the engagement. It's like a little ladder. You see how the 60s perform, then you see how the 120s perform, or 90s or whatever it was, which includes the 60s. And you can just see, hey, where does this kind of really start to suck, right? And you can use that ladder to find the right engagement window, because it might just be simply a different engagement window. It's just going to solve your problem overnight. Almost done here. Watch out for double taps. I know people out there like to get the most out of a piece of content by sending that piece of content again. Maybe do that. Maybe do that later, right?
And when you do that, it's funny, in the very early days of D2C, we used to do that when we only had a couple thousand subscribers. If someone didn't open the email, we'd send it again, and we got some complaints on it. We stopped that a long time ago. But basically, is that when the double tap that you're talking about, is that basically it? If you get a message that they haven't opened it, send it again. You got to be careful with that.
Bottom line, yes. Let's be. If you stepped on a landmine, now is not the time, right? But a quick comment for everybody out there in the webosphere about double taps. If you send an email and exclude everyone who opened you are sending to people who don't open emails. The engagement on that message is going to be so low. And what you're telling Gmail is, we send messages that people don't engage with. Honestly, you're better off, like as far as deliverability is concerned, you're better off giving it a new subject line and maybe changing the headline and sending it again. Right? You're better off rather than pulling out actual engaged people and sending it to only unengaged people, right? It seems counterintuitive, but just for everybody out there, don't send emails to only unengaged people. That's just the worst thing you can do for your IP.
Hoping that this time they'll engage. This time they'll get it.
It's like I'm going to send it to the stinkers.
Exactly. Especially when you got 1 foot down on a landmine.
Especially when you got 1 foot down on a landmine. That's right. And I think I got one more point here on my list, which is welcome frequency. So when someone first shows up, maybe turn on your smart sending. Some people, like, I see accounts where all the smart sending's off, and I know why. It's because they want to get stuff in the inbox, right? If someone shows up, I'll get it in the inbox. So, go in and turn smart sending on your stuff. I mean, obviously not, make sure the first welcome email and the first abandonment email go in, but like, don't go crazy. Maybe create a segment that prevents new subscribers or recent buyers from getting campaigns, just so that you can just let the welcome series and the post-purchase series do their job. Then go back into DTC podcast and watch the 3-part series on your welcome series and your post-purchase series, so you can learn how to set those up properly, which we did. And then get the campaigns out of there. So if you listen, you guys listen to the podcast again. I know some people listen to my podcast a couple times in a row. Get the list, write it down. If you do that stuff, you're going to be fine. There's no way. If anybody here does that stuff and the problem isn't solved in a month, please send a contact in and call me a monkey's uncle, and I'll just eat it.
Wow. Big words. Monkey's uncle. Where did that Scopes monkey trial stuff? Where'd that come from? Well, yeah, I just think I think so. So basically, when you're reviewing this podcast, it's for people that have, stepped on a landmine, and these are the things they can do to kind of dig themselves out to make sure that they don't put any more pressure down on that landmine, so they blow up their whole account. And if you can, it's like that Indiana Jones thing when he goes in the temple. You've got to put the weight over so that it doesn't blow you up, and that's basically what you're going to do.
In this podcast, we always make the best metaphors.
I gotta.
And I actually, there's one more thing I do want to discuss, which was that I'll just say this. So we do Glock Apps now. It's the way that we're measuring inboxing. Got that from you guys, by the way. I came in from the brand side, and it was always like, this tool integrates with Salesforce and Eloqua, $25,000 a seat. It was just like, and then one key finding is all those small business tools they're just as good as the ones that integrate with Salesforce and Eloqua. They cost a tenth. That's my finding coming to DTC from the corporate world. But listen, if there's anybody out there who doesn't know what's going on and they'd like us to just run a Glock Apps test for you and just give you kind of a read on your inboxing, we'll just do that for you. You can just contact our sales team. I'll probably do a little audit. If it looks like you could use our service, I'll offer it to you, but it's not going to be a hard sell at all. If we ever got a client, hey, great. If we didn't, we've done something good for the community, because it's just like, it's a little bit of a paradigm change. Just like when Apple changed how opens worked, it was a bit of a paradigm change. So it's just a stressful time. And if you're just looking at your thing, scratching your head, and you just like to know, look, are we in the inbox or are we not? We will just put a Glock Apps in a deployment, and we'll just give you that read.
Nice. We were in the promotions folder for a long time, but we found Glock Apps because just for those listening to, Glock Apps is basically just has a host of inboxes. It's got hundreds of Gmail inboxes, got inboxes, and they're basically like zombie emails that are run by Glock Apps. Basically, you send your content to all of these emails, and then Glock Apps records how your email behaves across each of these accounts. And I remember we were doing it 20 times a day with our whole newsletter, checking every word, making sure every one of the things inbox versus the promotions folder. It's a pretty neat little tool. I guess it doesn't give you full coverage because it's only giving you so many inboxes basically, but it definitely gives you a strong idea of what you might be triggering.
Yeah, it is volatile. So if we get it and we get a weird reading, we run another one right away because it is super volatile. But like if you take 3 readings and the 3 readings say, well, this isn't a spam folder, it's probably in the spam folder.
Totally. Nice. All right. Well, if you're listening out there, check out Glock Apps or come talk with Pilot House, and we'll run the Glock Apps for you and sneak a little audit in there. What could be better? Especially if you got one foot on a landmine, because we're headed. If you take that foot off, you're gonna lose a leg.
Actually, I don't know. Sorry, there was this film about the George Clooney was in it. George Clooney film, and they go and they save all the artwork in the Second World War. And one of the guys, Matt Damon, steps on a landmine, and he's like on the landmine, and they dig it. They dig under it and disarm it while he's standing there. So if you're Matt Damon and that's what's going on, we'll be your George Clooney. We'll take you out.
Love the landmine metaphors. Thanks. Where are you right now again? You're in, was it Bucharest? Where are you?
We're in Sofia, Bulgaria. We were just in Istanbul. We're in 2 days. We fly to Athens. We're going to spend. I'm taking a week off. We're going to be in Athens and Rome really quick, and then we come back, and I'll be back to work, but from Bansko, Bulgaria, and then after that we fly to Mexico. At some point, basically, I want to see the world while the boys before the boys are in school, basically. So now it's just the perfect time. Politics is kind of spicy back home, so now's the perfect time to just go see the world and check a bunch of boxes.
We've been a remote company for the 4 years that I've been here. Good to see you take. I haven't taken advantage of it fully. I'm always just here in this office in Victoria, but good for you, seeing the world, taking your kids. How old are your kids again?
Oh, like 1 and 3.
1 and 3. Okay, so they don't even know what's going on.
They don't know what's going on.
They're not appreciating the culture. Nice. Well, I appreciate you, Jordan. Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, have a good day.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you're not getting the D2C newsletter, you can subscribe for free at directtoconsumer.co. And if you want to learn more about Pilot House's all-killer, no-filler services, take off to pilothouse.co. I'm Eric Dick, and this has been the D2C Podcast. We'll see you next time.